Tonight, on Legislative Review. Transit-oriented housing. Plus, a proposed deposit fee for recyclable drink containers. And a bill concerning EpiPens in schools. All that coming up on Legislative Review. Thank you for watching Legislative Review. I'm Angela Nolasco. We start off today's coverage with a discussion in the House of Representatives.
We are pushing the working age generation further and further out, trapped in long commutes to isolated homes where they can never quite get ahead.
The House Housing Committee convened for a public hearing Tuesday, January 28th, to discuss a bill promoting transit-oriented housing. House Bill 1491 would prohibit fully planning cities from limiting the development of multifamily housing and mixed-use buildings close to transit centers. These are areas located half a mile away from rail transit centers and a quarter mile away from bus stops. Should the bill pass, cities under the Growth Management Act, or GMA, will be required to allow new residential and mixed-use development within any station area. The bill also proposes to establish affordability requirements for residential buildings constructed around these areas. Democratic Representative Julia Reed of Seattle, the bill's sponsor, cited a future-wise study saying that if passed, the bill will free up 3.6 billion square feet for housing and small business developments in the central Puget Sound area alone.
We don't have enough homes in the state. We don't have enough for people who can afford to buy into the market. We don't have enough for people who need subsidized housing, and we don't have enough near the transit assets that the state invests hundreds of millions of dollars in each year.
House Bill 1491 received support from the Washington Low-Income Housing Alliance, who believe it would promote zoning equity and prevent resident displacement.
And as Washington State builds or seeks to build over 1 million new homes over the next 20 years, of which over half need to be affordable and subsidized, we need to ensure that our upzones intentionally center affordable housing development. House Bill 1491 strikes a balance to ensure that housing of all income levels are built and that it includes affordable units in the mix that will crucially prevent displacement of residents and will prevent the gentrification of culturally significant neighborhoods.
Opponents of the bill, however, believe that the bill's affordability housing requirements will only reduce the supply of new housing or turn developers away. Morgan Irwin of the Association of Washington Business.
We're concerned with some of the low-income numbers that builders are just going to be turned off, and they're going to take those dollars and build other types of projects.
While neither testifying for nor against the bill, the Association of Washington Cities shared their stance.
We support the affordability requirements. There's no way that we can get 600,000 homes at 0 to 50% of AMI without an all-hands-on-deck approach. That includes the private market when it is feasible for them to participate. And density bonuses are a common tool that cities use to secure affordability in a market rate context. So if the state is going to provide that upzone, we think it's important to put a statewide standard in place. That said, the most common concerning feedback we've gotten so far is whether that particular threshold necessarily makes sense in any particular community.
Call it a deposit, call it a refund, call it whatever you want. It's just a tax at the end of the day.
On Wednesday, January 29th, the Senate Environment, Energy, and Technology Committee held a public hearing on Senate Bill 5502. Which proposes a refundable 10-cent bottle deposit for beverages a gallon or less that are sold in a covered plastic, metal, or glass container. The deposit is given back to the consumer when they return the empty container for recycling. For this to work, manufacturers will have to fund and operate a so-called PRO, or Producer Responsibility Organization, and educate consumers on container redemption and recycling. The PRO will identify convenient locations for redemption sites for consumers, which may include self-serve kiosks or store parking lots. If passed, the goal is to exceed a 65% redemption rate 2 years after its implementation and 85% 5 years later. Washington's litter tax, which manufacturers pay, will not be applied to the refund value of covered beverages if the bill takes effect. The bill's prime sponsor, Democratic Senator June Robinson, believes a value placed on recyclables will incentivize consumers to participate.
when I started walking through my neighborhood every day and seeing a lot of litter and taking a bag with me on my daily walk so I could pick up that litter. And a lot of it is bottles and cans. If we had a deposit return system here, I know that they would not be there.
Opponents to the bill, like the Washington Refuse and Recycling Association, said it's a consumer tax in disguise.
Instead of relying on the convenient curbside system, we have people walk past the bin that's sitting at their house and do chores to get their own money back. This is a regressive tax and places burdens on citizens. Think of those who rely on public transportation. And oh, by the way, you cannot crush the can. You better bring it in a hole. And that is the case in Oregon. People using their food stamp benefits to buy cases of bottled water, walk into the parking lot, dump it out, redeem it, and walk to the fentanyl dealer on the corner.
Supporting the bill, the Association of Plastic Recyclers said it's an efficient way to capture more plastic containers that don't end up in recycling bins.
And I'm here representing businesses that want and can recycle more plastic. You can't recycle what you don't put into the bin and doesn't get collected. And I'm here because the businesses I represent need us to collect more plastic bottles, help us turn litter and plastic pollution into a feedstock for U.S. manufacturing, and reduce our reliance on virgin plastic.
Good morning. This is the Early Learning K-12 Education Committee.
A bill concerning the use of EpiPens in schools was heard by the Senate Early Learning and K-12 Education Committee. Current state law allows school nurses and trained personnel to maintain and administer a supply of epinephrine in case students experience an allergic reaction. In response to an emergency involving a student without an EpiPen prescription, Senate Bill 5240 proposes to only allow school nurses to administer epinephrine to that student, using either the school's supply or possibly another person's own supply. If the epinephrine used in any case does not belong to the school, the cost will have to be reimbursed to the original owner of the EpiPen. Democratic Senator Lisa Wellman sponsored the bill on behalf of students from Lake Washington High School.
Almost all the schools, all the schools that I spoke with, have already EpiPens on hand. In many cases, parents have provided those EpiPens for their children to use. Now, in the time of an emergency, when a child is in anaphylactic shock, I would want them to be able to access anything that would help the child that is in shock. That's what this bill does. It just says you may use it and then make sure that it is reimbursed and the one that you used is replaced.
Testifying with concerns about the bill, Elizabeth Prey, a school nurse from Moses Lake, said it raises liability concerns for school nurses.
We have concerns that some of the provisions proposed in the bill conflict with the State Nurse Practice Act. The School Nurse Organization of Washington would welcome the opportunity to work with bill sponsors to address our concerns and expand access to stock epinephrine options for school districts.
Speaking on behalf of Washington's private schools, Suzanne Hansen also shared some concerns about the bill.
If our school nurse is not there that day and we have trained personnel and we are out on the playground and it's the third time somebody's been stung by a bee and they have this type of reaction, I know for a fact that the person who's trained is going to grab an EpiPen and save that child's life. We really feel strongly that if a personnel is trained to understand what it looks like and to use an EpiPen, that they're allowed to do so. Thank you.
No one publicly testified in favor or against Senate Bill 5240. During the hearing, the committee also heard other bills that would expand students' access to behavioral health support services. To watch all the hearings covered in this episode, as well as gavel-to-gavel coverage of the 2025 legislative session, visit our website at tvw.org. The 2025 legislative session runs for 105 days. It convened January 13th and is scheduled to adjourn on April 27th. Keep watching TVW for more updates. Thank you for joining us.